So what's new with you?
What's new with me? I promised everyone, based off of the last episode of No Holds Barred, if you tuned in for the last episode, I really hope Hatbox Kid is back because this story is too good to miss. Based on the last episode of No Holds Barred, I told you all that I had was in the mood to do something stupid, and in doing that, asked out a girl who at the time I didn't even know her name. I asked her out, and she said yes. And we confirmed on this podcast that I'm not, of course, going to divulge what her name was, but suffice it to say, we named her Miley because it really bothered Gio. Because it invoked Miley Cyrus and kind of made Gio cry. Exactly. So I asked this girl out, and the last podcast that we recorded, we were going to be getting together that night to hang out and just kind of see where it went. Now, Nick has not even heard this story.
No.
So I had to laugh. Cody in the chat. She came in like a wrecking ball. Cody, you are a champion. All right. So here's what happened. Starting from the end of last podcast, moving forward.
Break it down.
Break it down.
Break it down, man.
So after we finished the podcast, I was just hanging around the house because, of course, we were supposed to be getting together. I had to take a little drink there to get through this story. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited some more. I was stood up. Just flat out 90s style stood up.
Ouch.
Motherfucker. Like, this girl not only said yes, but asked me for my phone number. Made a purpose of saying, this is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to get in touch with you when we do this so that you can come too, and we get to hang out. We get to spend time together. So I was like, great. She's showing enough interest that she wants to include me in something. Like, she's like, I already had plans, but I want to include you in those plans.
Right.
So I was like, awesome. That's got to be a good sign, right? And then she just plain stood my ass up. I didn't hear from her at all that day. Didn't hear from her the next day. Didn't hear from her the next day. The day after that. The day after that. Nothing until the next time she worked, which was a Thursday. So this was a Saturday when we recorded the last podcast, and her and I were supposed to hang out that day. So between Saturday and Thursday, nothing. Not a fucking word.
Now that just means that she likes you.
I guess that just means that she likes me. In modern, that's how girls work. So Thursday comes around, and we're both working. So I'm like, well, this is slightly awkward, but I have to go over and find out exactly what happened. So I went over, and I was talking to her. And I was just like, what happened? And she's like, oh, I had a really bad toothache and I wasn't feeling good and everything. We didn't end up doing anything. So I was like, all right, that's fair. Even if that story was true, A, why didn't you text me to tell me? And B, why didn't you get in touch with me any of the days after that? Right?
Yeah.
But I let that slide because I don't want to sound like a dick, right? Like, eventually, I could have pressed it and I could have pushed it, but then I start sounding like a dick. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to play this cool. I'm just going to let this go. And then I was like, well, shoot me a text sometime and let's chat. She's like, okay, great. I'll do that. I'll do that, sir. Confirming that she will, in fact, do that. Days go by. Nothing. Friday night, nothing. Saturday, nothing. Sunday, nothing. Monday, nothing. finally gets to the point where we are working the same shift again.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. I'm giving this one last shot. So I went over and I was talking to her and I was like, what are you doing Friday night? This is where we start getting into the fucked up stuff.
Okay.
It's more fucked up than what I've already talked about. At this point, I would like to just pause in the story for 1 second to remind everyone of the first part of this story. This is a girl that flirted with me. I did not initiate this. She directly flirted with me. And I'm the last dude on the planet that would confirm and accept that an attractive female was flirting with him. Like I'm the Catholic in me was waiting for punishment. I'm like, there's no way that this girl is flirting with me. But when it happens multiple times, even me, who's the most jaded person in the world about my own romantic endeavors, I'm like, okay, this girl is flirting with me. Awesome. I'm going to pursue this because I'm not used to this. And I was able to, to me anyways, confirm that she didn't have a boyfriend. Because why would she flirt with me if she had a boyfriend?
Truth.
Right? So, I had that, and she was flirty and seemed very interested and everything like that. So we'll fast forward back to me asking, what are you doing Friday night? Well, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about. That was her response.
Ew.
So
Not
I'm
a good
like,
start.
oh no, here it comes.
Yeah, the boyfriend says we're going someplace and you can't come.
Yeah. You know what? But remember, she didn't have a boyfriend up to this point.
Okay.
Except that she fucking does.
I called it!
You fucking called it, champ.
Wow.
Nick books it.
Wow.
And Nick booked it properly. This girl who, out of context, multiple times, referred to me as handsome, said I could pay for things with my good looks, everything like that. And this wasn't innocent. It wasn't benign. Like, it had momentum behind it. It had flirting intentions behind it. The same girl then turns around and says, I have a boyfriend, and I didn't want you to make the mistake of thinking I was interested. And I'm like, I'm thinking, my brain is blowing up at this point. Because I'm like, motherfucker, if you didn't want me to think you were interested, why the fuck did you flirt with me?
Yeah. And said that, you were doing something.
Right, made the effort to try to include me in her plans, want me to be there, everything she could have fucking done, and then turn around and say,
wow.
sorry, I have a boyfriend, I didn't want you to think I was interested.
Wow.
Well, fuck. What?
That's,
what else was I supposed to think? Like, I'm not the kind of person that's going to automatically assume, okay, this girl must have a boyfriend and is just being a cock tease. I'm not that cynical of a person yet. I'm fucking getting there. But I'm not there yet. But turns out that's fucking what it was, I guess. Because she has a boyfriend, and then, of course, what comes next? She's told me she's got a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Told me she's not interested. What's the next step? Like, if you put yourself in her shoes, which I know you find me deadly attractive, so it works.
Oh, man.
So you put yourself in her shoes. What are you going to say to think that you're consoling me? What's the next line out of your mouth?
You're a really nice guy.
Keep going.
And I didn't want to hurt you or something like that.
Getting close. What would you want us to be?
What do you mean?
Like if you're telling me you're a really nice guy, why don't we be
friends?
You fucking nailed it,
Why
champ.
can't
And
we
there's Cody.
be
Let's be friends. And she delivers it in such a polished and perfect way. It's like she rehearsed it in front of the fucking mirror.
Probably did.
She probably fucking did. So that is the story. And that is the fucked up romantic path that I have been on for the fucking last couple of weeks. And it's, to me, it seems ridiculous. Like, I understand if she wasn't attracted to me from the beginning, but every inkling in my brain and in everyone else's brain who I told this story to multiple people, and I was like, is there any possible thing that I misinterpreted here? And every single person is like, no, you didn't misinterpret anything. She just flat out flirted with you while she had a boyfriend. And
it's a real
and
horrible
fucking
move.
There it was. And the guys in the chat are really giving it to me right now. Hatbox called her a gold digger and then was like friend zoned, and Justin is the friend zone wrestling champion. Justin, level 1000 friend zone champion. You know what? Apparently it was. And I think maybe, just maybe, we might be hearing from our friend the Iron Sheik on this topic, because I'm sure Sheiky wants to weigh in with a little something to say. That might be coming up a little bit later. But yeah, so that's basically the biggest thing that's been up with me in the last little while, is totally getting friend zoned by a girl that I wasn't really interested in until she was like, hey, I'm interested in you. And then I was like, okay. And then she's like, just kidding, got a boyfriend. Got my summer boyfriend in my mouth. And it's like, so what? So what? Why? Just why? I don't understand. Maybe this is proof that I'm an old man. Like, maybe it's proof that I'm an old man, because I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. Good on you. You win the joke, I guess. But, like, no idea. Maybe she is just a cock tease. That's a possibility.
I mean, it's quite possible.
This might be what she gets off on. Maybe she does this to a bunch of guys and then goes home and fucks her boyfriend. Maybe it's what she gets off on. It's a possibility.
She's a Craigslist lady.
Maybe she's one of those girls on Craigslist selling the panties.
It's a good possibility. I think we found one of them.
Panties, no. True enough. Hatbox chimes in. At least you knew she was a girl. What if she turned out to have a dick? Chris, you always have a way of being like, yeah, that situation was bad, but it could have been worse.
It's
like, you kind of showed me that situation could have been worse. So I more than appreciate that effort. That was really, really good. So that's my big story. That's my big vent. So concludes the greatest segment in the history of this podcast, Justin's sex life.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there will be another. But let this one come to you.
Oh, man. Son of a bitch.
Invite her in.
Exactly. I should invite her on the podcast.
You should.
Would that not be fucking entertaining?
Allow her to tell her story.
Yeah, tell her side of the story. That would be super interesting.
I'm sure it will never happen.
Well,
but,
no, fuck no. She'd never do that. But
it will never happen because why? Why won't it ever happen?
Oh, Nick might have something from Iron. Oh, Nick fucked up Iron Sheik. No, that's the problem. She's so deadly attractive. I still look at her and just be like, I would still do terrible things to you, but I am repulsed by you as a person. Because, anyways, so that's that. That was my romantic endeavor there. So I'm glad everybody was entertained by that. Hooray!
You also hurt your knee.
I also hurt my knee. I hurt my knee in not really a big bad way. But it still hurt.
A big bag hurt for your big bag knee.
Exactly. My hurt on my knee. For those of you that know me, I have a bad knee and a good knee. My bad knee is my left one. My left one I've dislocated partially or fully at least 20 times. And my right knee's only been like 4 or 5. So it's like, it's all right. But this time it was the right knee that I injured, which I injured it playing basketball with my nephew on Thanksgiving weekend. Of course, we're Canadian, so we just had Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving just went by. I injured my knee playing basketball. But I wasn't even playing basketball with my nephew. I was basically playing, like, are you familiar with the game Horse?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you that might not be familiar with Horse, you choose where you shoot from and like what kind of shot or like trick shot or anything like that. And you do that shot, and whether you sink it or you don't, the other person playing the game has to make that shot. And if you make it and they don't, they get a letter. And if you don't make it and they do, then you get a letter. And the first 1 to 5 letters to spell the word horse loses. It's basically the lowest impact game of basketball you can possibly have.
It's true.
And somehow, in the process of playing horse with my nephew, I sprained my right ACL. I have no idea how I did it. And it didn't even feel like it was hurt at first. Like, I got back from Halifax that night. It was like an hour away. And like that night I was like, okay, my knee's a little, not even sore, but just like, it feels like there's a little tweak in it or something. So I was like, okay, fine. So I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning and I couldn't straighten my leg. It hurt so much. Like I couldn't even straighten my leg out without fucking pain. So I was like, well, shit, that's not good. It turns out that I sprained, as Hatbox here puts it, Chris, I sprained my Canadian right ACL. It's exactly what I did. So I've been going to work wearing a knee brace, and that's been tons of fun. 10 pounds of fun in a 5-pound bag, as we like to say. Apparently that's a Canadian thing. Not really. But yeah, so that's basically been my life. Rejected by girls who flirt with me and then pull away at the last second, and spraining my knee. It's a great life.
It sounds like a great life. Where can I sign up?
Exactly. Everything's coming up, Justin. Oh, shit. You ready to talk about some Nick drunk talk?
Oh, man. Am I ever.
So, of course, we talked a little earlier about Nick in bars and all that jazz. Well, I want to share with you a little gem from a tome that if I went back and wrote down, like if I remembered every single instance of you talking while drunk and wrote it in a book, I'd be a best-selling author.
I think it would be.
And you would be rich as fuck, too, off the royalties.
Man.
But basically, here's what happened. Nick messaged me on, I can't remember what day it was now. Tuesday, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Something like that.
And he'd had a couple.
Yeah.
You were not piss loaded because you were still able to navigate your computer.
Yeah. And I had kind of good spelling.
All right, yeah. It wasn't. You know what? It wasn't terrible.
I was drinking Labatt Blue.
He was drinking some Labatt Blue. Fair enough. Which he's not drinking yet because he's got a Guinness, but we got Labatt Blue in the fucking freezer, so that'll be there. So this is what happened. And basically, I think we should do this like a skit. Because I have a couple things in here that I say, and I would like you to reenact the things that you said.
Okay.
So this is No Holds Barred performs Nick Drunk, Act 1. Scene A. Just to set the stage for you, it's a dark and stormy night. So give us the first line there, the first kind of out of context line before we get into the actual sort of skit part of it.
Okay. So I forget where we were talking about this. I said something before this, I remember.
Okay.
And it led into the next line.
Okay.
But the next line says Tau.
T-O-U.
Tau.
Tau. ...
And all and such. With random words mixed in there somewhere. ... Somewhere?
So he was saying that he was like, I think it was like confirming something. Like it meant, instead of Tao, it meant to be like yes or something. And all and such. So really just a continuation of the confirmation. Unnecessary, but fine. With random swear words. So, sometimes we like to toss in some random swear words there. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm accepting this up to this point. Mixed in there somewhere. And then you questioned your own last word by repeating your own last word, which was somewhere, but putting the question mark after it. Somewhere?
The words had to be somewhere. I just did not know
We
where.
just don't know where they are.
No.
They're around somewhere.
Yeah.
Feels like we're critiquing a Craigslist ad.
We kind of are.
We kind of are. All right.
Okay.
Here's the skit, guys.
Okay. So I break back in. Okay. So how about Monday, 6:30-ish? I say ish due to, time differences between here and Liverpool.
So for those of you that don't know, Liverpool and Bridgewater are at most 40 minutes away from each other. Very clearly within the same time zone. But Captain Labatt over here was basically, we were talking about when we were going to do the podcast. So he's like, Monday, 6:30-ish. I say ish due to, time differences between Liverpool and Bridgewater, which is nothing. My response to this, of course, is massive time difference. Hours and shit. Then he kicks back in with...
I kick in with the only kinds you will find in an episode of Looney Tunes, and not the kind that Tony Stark can travel through when flying as Iron Man.
So I waited a few minutes. Because I was trying to digest, first of all, what he was talking about. And second of all, how he possibly combined Iron Man and Looney Tunes into one single reference. Which would be a badass crossover, don't get me wrong. I would love to see an Iron Man cross Looney Tunes cartoon show. Or one of those like straight to DVD videos. I think that'd be fucking great.
Would be awesome.
But I was just like, was he talking about hours? Or was he talking about distance? Or the fucking time zones? Or what? And that was basically my response. After a couple minutes of trying to piece this together, I was basically just like, dude, what? That was my response, was, dude, what? And then, of course, you finished off with the classic.
Yeah, it's just classic. Sorry, I've been drinking. Yeah.
It's like, you never have to apologize for drinking, because when you drink, fun things happen.
I don't know where that came from.
It was somewhere down in the deep bowels of the cockles of your heart, maybe below the cockles, maybe in the subcockle area, as Dennis Leary would say.
Yeah.
It was somewhere in there, but I appreciated it.
Okay. I'm glad somebody did.